Dude, what a countdown.
So yesterday, I was on doing an interview in a radio station in North Carolina, right? And I'd been on in Alabama and a couple other places. And everywhere I go on, they're asking me, like, what do the fans think about Deshaun Watson? Okay, I get that. And yesterday, though, I got fired up because the guy who was interviewing me says, well, Carolina fans really feel like they dodged a bullet by not trading for Deshaun Watson. I said, oh, really? I said, listen, the only way you could argue that is if Deshaun Watson never plays again. I said, let me ask you this. Let's say Deshaun Watson gets suspended for a year, which I don't think he's going to be ultimately, but let's say he does, in theory, get suspended for a year. I said, listen, would you rather have Jacoby Brissett for 1 year and then Deshaun Watson for 4, or the crapola you got a quarterback in Carolina? And he was like, well, okay, I guess that's a good point. Like, people are so prisoner of the moment. Like, oh, this is a disaster, a terrible trade. And maybe 5 years from now we'll look back and we'll say that was the case. I don't think so, but maybe we will. But to say it's a disaster right now is absurd. And the latest news coming out about Daniel Snyder helps Deshaun Watson's case.
We're going to get into that in the discussion of Deshaun Watson because we talked about last week how the NFLPA said they're going to come out guns blazing.
Yeah.
Well, there was a story leaked about the investigation into what was going on with Washington, and it's not good news for Dan Snyder. No. But I wouldn't be surprised if this isn't somehow, some way tied to the NFLPA.
Yes.
Because they said they were going to hit hard, and we could possibly have seen the first missile in this fight between the league and the PA.
And Jay, I'm going to interrupt again. I apologize, but I'm going to do it. I want to talk to our fans. I'm looking right in the camera. Don't apologize, even if you want to say Deshaun Watson's a bad guy, but don't apologize for being excited for him being on the team. And yeah, you're a hypocrite like we all are. Oh, because we were ripping Roethlisberger and ripping the Steelers. And just admit you're a hypocrite, but admit something else. All these other fan bases around the country for these teams that have scrub quarterbacks like Carolina or all these other teams that were trying to get Deshaun Watson, their fans are going to pretend they dodged a bullet. They're going to say, oh, he's a bad guy. I wouldn't want him on my team. They're all full of crap. They'd all want him on their team.
Hey.
It's that simple.
I want to commend you for coming out swinging today.
I'm sorry, no.
I want to
Let's go. Let's go.
Let's get it going.
Let's go.
I will say, I did a podcast last night.
Yeah.
And before I went on, the producer had sent a text to me saying, "Are you going to be an apologist, or are you going to give your true opinion?" And I said, I don't know. I only know how to give my true opinion.
Exactly.
I'm not going to be an apologist. I think that Cleveland has made some missteps here.
Yeah.
So I won't excuse everything they've done.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I do think that the national folks, the national media, is looking at the local Cleveland media that's decided to come out and defend Deshaun Watson as apologists. That's what they're labeling the Cleveland media that are saying things now about Watson that we perhaps weren't saying about.
But I'm not defending Deshaun Watson personally. I'm defending him being on the team.
That's what they're meaning. An apologist for the Browns' actions to go and do this. All right, reset.
Reset.
At 11:05. 20 of the 24 cases were settled yesterday. This was breaking news on our program yesterday.
Yep.
We told you about that. That means there are 4 that are unsettled. We've had some time to think about this and to read and to find more information that we maybe didn't have available to us yesterday. Tyvis, you weren't in. What are your thoughts on the 20 cases being settled yesterday by Watson?
Well, I think it's one of those things that, the NFL got with him. I think once the Texans got involved in the whole thing, I think they was like, listen, you ain't about to keep fighting. No, because see, now you bringing us into it. So now we need you to settle. If
you think the league put pressure on Watson to settle?
You settle, we'll give you X amount of games if you settle now. But if you fight this thing and the Houston Texan goes down with you, then you might not never come back. Like, I think we might give you the 2-year ban type thing. So I think he was kind of, this is one of the things that, he was like, you know what? I just take the games. I really, really wanted him to clear his name because, like I said, I'm not.
This doesn't do that for you.
Yeah, not at all. I think the settlement, everybody's still going to say, hey, if you settle, it admits guilt. I think you told me that. If you settle, that admits guilt. Yep. And the thing about it to me is, I think I read somewhere on Twitter, which you could take it with a grain of salt, is that each woman is getting like $150,000. So you telling me $150,000, this man has basically caused you pain, scarred you for life with this, and you telling me $150,000 is enough to get rid of all that, to make all that cool?
We talked to a Cleveland-based attorney yesterday on our Channel 3 program, What's New, at 5 o'clock. He thinks the number's much smaller than that.
See, and that's what I'm saying.
He thinks it's a third of that, like in the 50,000 range, which would be a $1 million total settlement for all 20.
I sat here and said 50 racks yesterday.
That's not enough.
Listen, it's all guesswork. Nobody knows.
We don't know, and it doesn't matter, and it doesn't mean we can't analyze whether it's true or not based on how much money they got or whatever. You don't know what you can prove in court. It may be hard.
I just bring up the lawyer's statement because he's in the game.
Right.
And he said, I know if I was representing the women what I would ask for, and I know if I was representing Watson what I would be willing to pay. And by the way, I want to clean one thing up. Yeah. I'm not necessarily, I've never said that if you settle that it admits guilt. What I say is if you settle, you are taking responsibility for something. And maybe he still believes in his mind because he's reiterated time and again he's done nothing wrong. Yeah, so I don't want to implicate him that he's always guilty because he settled. Yeah. I think what it implies is there is a price for him moving on with his life, and he's willing to take responsibility for whatever it is that's happened here.
Well, I think it's one of those things like we've been alluding to this whole time where he, in his mind, he didn't realize that he caused this pain. I think after sitting down and maybe putting himself in their shoes and understanding where they're coming from, because that's what makes you a better human being. You have to understand where your victim is coming from, because if you completely think you're innocent and you're not willing to listen to their reasoning, you won't understand. Right. So I think him probably sitting down, listening, like, oh my goodness, like if that's what happened during this that made you feel like I sexually assaulted you, then I apologize, and then I think that could have forced him to say.
Bull, I want to get your thoughts how they may have evolved, but before we do that, Stevie, can we play the clip from Watson at the mandatory minicamp from last week
when asked whether or not he would consider settling?
Yeah, here was his response.
Are you open to settling now? And what would it take to settle these?
Like I said, I just want to clear my name and be able to let the facts and the legal procedures continue to play out. So right now, that's all I'm doing is want to clear my name and be able to let all the facts come out in the court of law and be able to focus on that.
Okay, it was interesting. So a lot of the media basically portrayed that answer as he was refusing to settle.
Right.
He never said in that answer, I am not going to settle. He said, I want to clear my name.
And by the way, even if he did say that, things change, right?
Sure.
You know, we don't know what happened.
Well, we know Busby was steadfast. I'm not settling any of these cases.
Yeah.
And he did. And so, Busby's the attorney that represents the women.
I'm gonna tell you what happened. All that happened is this, man. Look, somebody got with him and realized, you know what? When you looking at a situation in people's perception, somebody came to him and said, look, you're never going to clear your name in certain people's mind. You could try to live your life and say, I'm going to be clear. I always talk about it. Nowadays, even on fast and hard facts, people still take L's. Somebody will argue with you in the grocery store that the earth is flat. Somebody will argue in the grocery store with you or in the street that the moon landing was faked. You can't argue.
Giannis is the greatest of all
time.
Whoa, don't go there.
Demonstrably false. We all know there's a certain thing called facts, and we have to have facts that count for everyone. To you, Deshaun Watson, some people not going to like you based on 4 reasons. One, and this is can all things be true? They might not like your allegations. They may not like the fact that you came in and got the biggest contract in the world. Guaranteed. They might not like the fact that you came and got Baker Mayfield's position. They may not like the fact that there's 4 black quarterbacks in the quarterback room. All of these things can be true at one time. The only thing that you can do and you can control is you can get out there and you know what changes people's minds, and this is bad to say, dubs, wins, plays, touchdowns.
Fact.
And somebody got to you and said, look, bro, stop trying to fight with people that ain't never going to root for you. Talk to the people that might give you another opportunity and admit that you did, this behavior was kind of unbecoming. You can't, either way you go, you're never going to get a lot of people on your side when you say, I slept with this many people in a place of business. People don't like that decorum. But at the end of the day, he got to the point where the league said, look, if you want to fight it, we can fight the long way. We can give you that indefinite joint. So he said, all right, come on, get these 8 and go ahead and settle this and keep it pushing so we can all get back to the business of doing what we want to do. And I think that's what happened.
I think you hit the target with
Right.
that,
Yes.
G. Bush. I think that is
100%.
absolutely dead on.
And
Great point.
And I think the reality is most of us want to just talk about football. And we've said it a million times. We don't know exactly what happened. We'll probably never know exactly what happened. I'm hoping these other cases get settled. These other 4 women are probably looking for more money.
Do you think we're headed that way? It feels
I'm
like
hopeful,
Yeah.
yes, but I don't know. I mean, this Ashley Solis, who spoke on the show, she hasn't settled. Maybe she wants her day in court. I don't know what's going to happen, but I would think, as we talked about yesterday, what's your dollar figure? We played the Judge Jay game.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a lot more serious than that, but most people have a number, so it might be higher for those other 4
I like
women.
that. I like that.
But
point.
here's the reality. I know it's 2 versus 24. I get it. But you know what Deshaun Watson was never accused of, which
Rape.
Ben Roethlisberger was? Rape. Exactly.
Absolutely.
That's a whole new ball game.
It is.
And yet when Ben Roethlisberger retired, well, no talk about that.
People was crying with him on the sideline.
He's the greatest guy.
And I never, and to me, I never, like, I don't, there's certain, I don't like the Steelers, I don't like the Ravens, but at the end of the day, man, I don't root for nobody going to jail. I don't make jokes. Like, to me, I was one on the opposite side of the spectrum. I'm gonna say y'all get your jollies off by saying, oh my gosh, he got in trouble, but he's kicking your ass every single week. He's destroying the Browns. He's 29-1 or 2. The people that was saying, oh, Ben Roethlisberger, those guys ain't really interested in football. They pom-pom waivers. At the end of the day, Ben Roethlisberger was destroying the Cleveland Browns. He came back, did what he had to do. He's going to be in the first ballot Hall of Famer. And like everybody in their life, when you go back and look at some of the stuff that you did, you won't be proud of it, but you just got a long time to go and that you need to continue to get to it, man.
Ultimately, fans mostly care about what you do on the field. And you're right, there's going to be fans that will never like Deshaun Watson. You don't have to like him. He's got to deal with that. That's his thing to deal with. But ultimately, if he plays well, most of these stories go away. And if they get brought up, it doesn't affect his career. His teammates probably don't care about it.
What's interesting is those stories will go away in Cleveland if he wins.
Yeah.
But if he wins, the other 31 cities, their voices will be amplified every time he comes to wherever, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, wherever.
that's true.
He's going to have to hear about it. But G. Bush, I love
that's
your
fine,
point.
Jay, because
no, it's fine. I'm sure he knows
we did
that
it to Pittsburgh as
Right.
whatever. So
Yeah.
it's all right.
G. Bush, to your point, I do think it does feel almost like he has come to that place where he's figured out I'll never clear my name. There are some people that are always going to believe that he did something to these women. I want to talk now about, and we had it up on the screen a second ago, Steve, if we can throw that back up there. This was an interesting side to yesterday's story that I didn't think got enough traction locally. We put it in our show, but the AP was reporting yesterday that an NFL source inside the building who wanted to remain anonymous, which I hate, but that's the way it goes. They said that they came right out and said settling doesn't give you a pass. It doesn't give someone a pass. And this was the part that I focused on. This official still said a lengthy suspension remains in order.
Here's what I think is going to happen,
I don't
Jay.
know what lengthy means, but I found that very interesting yesterday and underreported locally.
Here's my conspiracy theory on this. The NFL wants to come off as tough as possible, right? Mm-hmm. So they can convince the people that are angry that they're trying to do their best job.
You bet.
However, they don't want to get into a fight with the players' union over this, and they want this. The start of training camp is a celebration of football. I believe they want this over and settled by then. So what they're going to do is they're going to say, hey, listen, we wanted to give him a longer suspension, but it was going to be a big fight, so we ended up giving him 8 games, and that's it. I have said from day one it would be an 8-game suspension. I still say it's going to be an 8-game suspension, and I think the league keeps putting this out there because they want the public to think they're trying to do more, but their hands are tied.
I think you're absolutely right. Tyvis, does that make sense to you?
8 games is detrimental. Like that's
it
a whole.
is, but
like that's enough to really alter a season.
Rewind before the NFLPA made their unprecedented comment. Remember that?
Yeah.
The NFL, there were sources saying that this is going to be an unprecedented suspension. Well, I don't know how it could be unprecedented because we've seen lifetime bans. So,
who got
Ray Rice?
Did he get an official lifetime ban?
I thought people just decided they wasn't going to pick him up. But it was equivalent.
Mine as
of,
well. Yeah.
I don't know if it was an official lifetime ban,
but it's equivalent.
Nobody touched him.
Yeah.
Right.
And he was still a productive back at the time of the incident.
Yeah.
one way or another, I don't. How can it be unprecedented? Look what they did to Josh Gordon for smoking weed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think the rhetoric was flying back and forth between these unnamed sources. Camps were releasing information. Yeah. And once the unprecedented came out, the NFL was real quick the NFLPA was real quick to reply, oh, yeah? We've got big missiles that we're willing to launch.
Absolutely.
And they pertain to Jerry Richardson, Jerry Jones, Dan Snyder, and Robert Kraft.
Yeah.
Do you want us to drag 4 corner posts to the league when you look at these guys, particularly 3 of them, Jones
Yeah,
and
Richardson
Snyder.
was kicked out, though.
Richardson's done, but Jones, Snyder, and Kraft are looked at. If you ask the average NFL fan to name 5 owners, I think all of them would name those 3.
Personally, I don't think Kraft belongs with the other 2. His situation, to me, is not the same. The other 2 are systematic.
It's exactly the same. No, it's not the same as Jones and Snyder. But it's exactly the same as Deshaun Watson.
That's a fact.
It involved a massage.
And that's a fact.
But he's not being accused of sexual assault.
No, he's
that's
not.
true.
It's a sex crime.
It's a sex crime. He broke the law. It was caught on tape. I mean, I don't know how.
If Deshaun Watson was just being accused of paying for sex and nothing else, there wouldn't be much of an issue here.
I guess, but you can't look the other way when an owner pays for sex and gets caught on tape.
I think the Jerry Jones and Daniel Snyder comparisons are better.
I'll say this: when I was in corporate America, we had a risk department, right? Risk management. They tell us which one of our accounts is this is risky. This might be a little volatile. You might not make money on these accounts. So risk is, by the way, probably a risk management department in the NFL. They're probably telling them, look, you have 2 opposite ends of the spectrum. You got people who want to see that are very sensitive about sexual assault, maybe women, people in that community. But we also have on these other end the NFL Players Association. So which one of them can you afford to have a dispute about? If you're going to have a dispute with some of these individuals that are women that are about the civil cases, some of them will be mad for a while. Some of them may come back. But if you talk about the Players Association,
you don't want them.
You don't want somebody digging the skeletons when you already have 2 to 3 investigations still pending, being Flores and John Gruden is another one. You don't want no problems. You just say, okay, well, do we want to come off over hot-handed or heavy-handed? No. Let's split the difference. And let's come off like we had a real negotiation and we can get back to some football.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would definitely be the way to
What
go.
happens to the other 4 before we move on from this?
I
think
say
they settle. I think they settle.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so they had to get their if you're gonna be the face of something, I got to get a little more than what they getting. So
Sure.
I think they wouldn't be compensated.
And by the way, she was very credible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Solis, she was very, very credible.
I think those 4 are going to get more money than the other.
I think that it sounds like they are. And those were probably the cases where I imagine there's a negotiation going on between Harden and Busby behind the scenes. And Harden said, look, you still got 4 aces in your hand. So these 20 are good. We have to get those out of the way.
Yeah.
But I think Busby let him know, just sharpen your pencil for the check on the other 4.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be real money.
Yeah,
they're going to get him where it hurts for sure.
Risk.
All right. Let's do this. This was a fascinating topic. I think McNuggets came up with this yesterday.
Yeah.
He came running into the newsroom and he goes, hey, listen. I got a question for you.
This is true.
How many postseason games does Deshaun Watson win? And I go, next year? What are we talking about? He goes, career. I go, I don't know. So we had a conversation back and forth. He goes, I want to set a line for tomorrow's show for an over-under on total wins that Deshaun Watson amasses while he's in Cleveland. And he set it on 3.5, right? So that's the over-under line. Over-under Deshaun Watson playoff wins as a Cleveland Brown. Bull, you taking the over?
Way
you got
over.
the under.
Yeah,
Way over. Yeah.
We're all in agreement.
There's
there.
only 2 scenarios where he would not go over. One, he has some sort of devastating injury that just completely, like an all-time injury that derails his career. 2, something else comes up where he ends up going to jail in this vein.
Right.
If those 2 things don't happen.
What if he were to miss? And I know this is, at this point, it does seem like an absolute non-starter.
Yeah.
But what if he was to be suspended for 2 seasons?
I would still.
Then he has 3 to get 3.5
I can't imagine
wins.
that's going to happen, but even if I had to go with that scenario, I'd still pick the over because here's the thing. I think Deshaun Watson, who's, what is he, 25 still?
26?
26?
26.
Yeah, 26, I believe.
I think he's going to be the Browns quarterback for the next decade, maybe more.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, even if he never went to the Super Bowl, which hopefully he will at some point,
Right.
I still think he wins some playoff games here and there. Now, to be fair, he only has one playoff win.
Yeah.
But the roster is currently constituted, and the Browns roster is young. Most of their key players are young.
Yeah.
Is by far the best roster he's played with. I mean, it's not even close, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And he's never had a good offensive line. He's never had a good running back. He did have one good wide receiver, a great wide receiver, in DeAndre Hopkins. But that's it. And he's got so much talent around him. The running game, I mean, everything around him.
McNuggets, it appears we set the line too low.
Yeah,
You wanted to comment. What do you got?
Yeah, I should have clarified, and this is 100% on me.
Okay.
When I made that line, I was thinking on this current contract.
I'll
So
still say
on
over.
this
I would
line-
still say over. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now let me present some evidence to the jury here. Steve, let's take 20. Overall, the Browns are 17-21 in their franchise history in the playoffs. They only have one win since 1995.
Irrelevant.
And I was curious.
It's
I
irrelevant.
just wanted to see how far back did we have to go.
Good Lord,
what
that's all time? That's going back pre-Super Bowl era?
Yeah, all time. And then I did some more
This
research.
is a team
Steve,
that was dynastic once upon a time.
let's cut back. I had to go back to 1987 to find 4 playoff wins for the Cleveland Browns. Steve, go back. No, you were on it. You were on it. Yep, the next
Yeah.
one.
We all know these numbers, but they're
No, I
irrelevant.
know, but I'm just saying I set the
Yeah.
line. Steve, let's go to the next one. Yeah, keep
Yeah.
this one here. I had to go back. We set the line at 3.5 for the next 5 years. We have to go back to 1987
Which
to
was
find that same
35
number.
years ago.
So, yes, I should have worded it on this current contract, not
Okay,
in
but
his total Browns
you know what?
career.
I
But
think,
it is.
I don't know that would have changed it. I think the guys all think that he's going to win
For sure.
4 playoff games over the next 5 seasons.
Even if you
What's
talk-
amazing to me is when
Yeah.
you put that up there, if he does that, it equals the playoff win total of this entire franchise going back 35 years.
Yeah.
We sucked more than I thought we did.
When you,
Since they've been in the NFL,
That is hard to look at.
it's
How many
almost like
playoff wins does Tom Brady have?
Lord.
Hold on,
50?
but it's a lot.
I mean, he's got 6 Super Bowls.
So overall, we 17-21 as a franchise.
I guarantee
17
you,
but that
Brady's
includes
won more
that-
playoff
that
games.
includes like the 50s and 60s when there was
That's
like 4 teams.
But
and they
we
won
were
Tom
championships.
Brady is
Dynasty then.
I know.
35-12 in the playoffs.
man, I tell you what.
Let that sink in.
Half of the problem is this. Half of the problem is
We
this.
had the right
When
pieces.
you-
I'm
when-
sorry to Cleveland, by the way.
When
And we
you
could have
got-
drafted him 6
And by
times
the way,
before he went
how
to New
many
England.
playoff wins did the Patriots have before Tom Brady?
That's
Not
a-
many.
that's a
I don't
Hold on.
care.
They
I
went-
don't care.
they
That's
went
a
to the
fact.
Super Bowl.
That's a fact. They
I
didn't
don't
even have
care.
a Super Bowl win.
The fact that Tom Brady has 35
my
playoff
point,
wins,
Jay,
and we have 4
he
in
could
the
be-
last
Deshaun
35
Watson
years.
could be
My
there.
point is, the Patriots were a terrible franchise for a long time, and then they got a great quarterback, and then they weren't terrible.
Well, you're not
The
possibly
Patriots,
saying
for
that
the
Watson's
record,
going to win
have
35 playoff games.
37 career playoff victories as a franchise.
They had 2 before
37.
Brady.
They had 2
Yeah,
before
now,
Tom Brady.
and they weren't
They
around.
went to the Super Bowl.
And they weren't around very long.
By the way,
before.
they went to the Super Bowl, got destroyed by the Bears.
Here's the
55 to 10.
And here's
Tony
the
Eason was the
problem.
quarterback.
And I'll tell you what the exact reason they wasn't winning no games back then. It's the exact reason that we talk about this thing with Deshaun Watson. For so long in Cleveland, we have been so conservative in which the players we pick, what the makeup is, what their background is. The Cleveland Browns been going out here with a half a roster that couldn't compete for the last 50 years. There are people that told you that they would rather.
Well, not 50.
I mean,
In the 80s, they went to
They
3
were good
AFC
in the 80s.
championship
they was good.
games in the late
They was
80s.
good. They was good. They had good talent.
go
Took it a little
30
bit too
But
far.
30 years. But here's the problem. They was averse to having people with any background character issues. They're averse to anybody that wears their socks high. They're averse to anybody that talks to the media. We want Boy Scouts. Eric Mangini was running around here finding people for bottles of water, and he kept getting jobs. My point is this. If you're not trying to win at the highest levels, they've shamed you into doing the things they did. Josh Gordon, he needs to go. Then Belichick
Jim
picked him.
Brown wasn't exactly a model citizen.
I need more Jim Browns. Like they tell us, I need more Jim Browns.
I wouldn't say it like that, but I know what you're saying.
They tell us Josh Gordon, hey, you guys need to cut him. You guys need to cut him. And then Bill Belichick picks him up. Everything is all good.
Well, he's not done much. Since.
Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
It's the Patriot way.
I don't know that I
It's a-
agree with you that you
it's a-
can't have Boy Scouts. I don't know if that I want Josh Gordon and Antonio Brown are the guys I want on the team.
Well,
Antonio
very good
Brown.
anymore.
Antonio Brown got your ring.
Wait a
Don't
minute.
forget, bro.
No, we're not
Wait a
Antonio
minute.
Brown.
Wait a minute.
So here's the deal. let's wrap it up this
Yeah.
way because we've got a schedule to stick to, and we want to talk about the Guardians' win last night.
Yeah.
But I'll wrap it up by this. With this, the over/under was 3.5, probably low. I'm just going to say this: he'd better win a lot more than that.
Sure.
For $230 million,
He
he
listen.
better.
It's the richest contract in the history of the NFL.
I think they got.
I
the
know
right
you guys
pieces.
disagree with me. If this doesn't end in a Super Bowl, it was a failure. I'm sorry. There are very few.
I
there are
don't-
very
I don't
few trades
disagree
I can
with
say
that.
that about.
I don't disagree
if
with
this
that.
doesn't end in a Super Bowl victory, not let's go and
It's
say
a
we went.
disappointment if he doesn't.
What-
make
I think
Super
it's a
Bowl.
failure.
What was the trade? How many first-round picks we give up?
3.
Oh yeah, that's called mortgaging your future. So yeah,
What
it has,
future?
It has
They
to,
had a million
it has
first-round
to-
picks
It
that
has
were
to work.
useless.
It has to
I
work.
don't agree.
They've been good on their first-round picks the last 5 years.
Last couple of years.
You took. Usually, people say if you take a quarterback in the first round and he don't pan out, that sets you back how many years? They took Baker Mayfield. He was here 4 years. He won 1 playoff game and he went to the divisional round. You can't say that if you trade for another quarterback and he gets you the furthest you've ever gotten in the
No.
history of your life,
Not enough.
it's
They
not
wanna-
good enough.
Not
Some
enough.
people want to canonize Baker for one playoff
One
win.
play, but he can get to the Super
Well,
Bowl, and that's
listen,
not enough.
Watson isn't getting
Watson's
canonized
gotta
unless he
win.
puts a ring on their
He
finger.
He gotta win it.
To me,
He's got to win
He
it.
has to win it.
You can't have it both ways.
Listen,
You're right.
Listen,
You got to win it.
230 million. Don't nobody care
You made this
about
trade
this-
to bring a winner to Cleveland.
Exactly.
Not a runner-up, a winner.
I understand getting you to the door, but you got to kick the door down.
I agree.
Like,
You
you
can't have
got to kick the
100%.
door. Because if that's the case, we could have kept
Oh,
Baker
but-
Mayfield
but-
because he was headed that way.
To me, it's disappointing if he doesn't win a Super Bowl.
The goal is to win the championship.
Of course.
For
That's
sure.
of course it's disappointing.
And this is an all-in move.
Right, and they had no chance of winning it with Baker, and now they do with Deshaun, so that's it.
That's
Have a
it.
chance,
In
right?
my opinion.
And if
In
he
my
wins
opinion.
a Super Bowl, everybody can look back at this and say,
Oh,
it's just like bringing
it was all
LeBron
worth
back.
it.
A lot of people didn't
Yeah.
want to bring him back.
Right.
He gave
Well,
us the
those people
ring.
are dumb.
It worked. No, once
Wait a minute, who was
once he
against
won the
that?
championship,
Yeah.
then everybody was like, man,
Right.
I'm glad we brought him back. But there were a lot of fans when he
Yeah.
came back that said, I'll never root for them again.
Facts.
Where
Yeah.
were they on Father's Day 2016?
Well, they showed don't want him back now, and I think
By the
he
way,
would be nice in the Cavs
You and I are going to
uniform.
have the ultimate celebration when Deshaun Watson wins the Super Bowl. Stick it into the face of all the D-bags who didn't want it.
I'll be doing back.
You guys will probably lead the parade, won't you?
We will.
You'll be out there leading parade.
Yeah.